It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books in the world of American comics. You know, DC, Marvel, Image, all that kind of stuff. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Yeah, let's talk about the best comics of the week, especially Tom Taylor. We got to talk about how well he knocked it out of the park this week.
Well, it's been a big week for Tom Taylor. He got promoted up to Detective Comics, where he's going to be in October. And if you needed a reminder of just how uninspired Tom Taylor can be on his worst day, Nightwing, the last issue, I was like, hey, he kind of turned around. Maybe this Fall and Grayson thing's going to be good. This week, he just goes and does something completely random. Dick Grayson grabs his three-legged dog, well, after he breaks out of jail or whatever, and takes her into the Himalayas to go and, I don't know, get his groove back with Dead Man. How weird was that?
There was one positive. I think it was maybe 1 page, 2 pages at the most. It was when a young Dick Grayson was talking to a younger Boston Brand when they were still alive at the circus. That was it. After that, it is just all garbage. The dialogue is terrible. The art is terrible. And it's not just that. The very last page, if you're not laughing your ass off on the very last page, how ludicrous and stupid it is, you don't get it. You're not a real Nightwing fan.
Well, I don't think this guy's even a Batman fan. At one time, I think it's Barbara's like, listen, if you give away your secret identity talking to Dick Grayson and say that you're Nightwing, everyone's going to know that you're not heartless. You'll be innocent. You won't be the bad guy. And the entire Batman family is willing to give up their secret identities for you. I was like, in no world would that ever be the case.
No, and that's just another thing that current writers don't understand how precious a secret identity is and what the importance of a secret identity is. You're keeping others around you safe from your actions, what you're doing, keeping them safe from reprisals. And they just think, oh yeah, we can handle it. Don't worry about it. No one would do that. You know, they're not only putting their lives at risk, they're putting their loved ones' lives at risk. People they maybe not family, but friends as well, friends of friends at risk because of that crap. No, you would never ever do that. That is the stupidest decision anyone can make, especially a costume superhero.
Because Dick Grayson's in the Himalayas and Heartless has gone out on the news, and I don't even want to get into the stupidity of we've kidnapped all your children, so now we're going to murder their parents even though we don't have them. And I guess Bloodhaven needs Nightwing. So Bruce Wayne, who's like 6'3", 250, puts on the Nightwing costume for Dick Grayson, who's like 5'10", 170, as if nobody would notice that he became a giant overnight.
The fact that no one said, Tom, this is not a smart idea. This does not make sense logically for Nightwing or Batman. The fact that no one said no to him is an embarrassment to DC, and just going with it. This is laugh out loud stupid. It is implausibly stupid. It's as stupid as someone having a vacuum cleaner to suck out hearts. I can't believe it. That this actually happened, and we're going to get that in the next issue as well. If you're not laughing at this, about how absurd it is, you're not getting the joke. This is an absolute joke.
Well, the bigger joke is Nightwing was the better book this week from Tom Taylor. He also had Titans come out, which has just been an aimless, boring series since he relaunched it. They were going to make the Titans Justice League level. There's one moment that kicks off with the end of the previous issue where Raven is essentially like attacking Dick Grayson because he thinks that she might be evil or whatever. But then they stop fighting each other and act like nothing's happening because Cyborg and Beast Boy have walked in. Why wouldn't, I don't know, Dick Grayson want them to know that she's probably evil and is trying to torture him?
I have no clue what Tom's thinking, just to further his own plot, because he's not interested in that. He's not interested in that conflict. And as a matter of fact, I really don't think Tom Taylor is interested in conflict, period. He does not want to tell conflict. He wants to tell jokey jokes. He wants to tell stories about grown adults giving kids lollipops. He wants to tell environmentalism stories, the Teen Titans stopping deforestation, or whatever, or religious, or people who are religious. That's what he's interested in. He's not interested in superheroes, supervillains, superheroes fighting supervillains. That's the furthest thing away from what Teen Titans is, or what the main Teen Titans is DC's main superhero book right now, superhero team book. It's not Justice League, and the fact that they're not really doing anything outside of bickering with one another and Changeling arguing with someone who's also a female Changeling, I think. I don't understand what's going on in this book. It does not make sense.
Well, they had to, I guess, clear his name because a giant green tiger was attempting to assassinate the leader of another nation, so he had to show up as a giant green gorilla. It's a poorly constructed comic book. It is the drizzling shits, and somehow, in a week where Nightwing, the bottom fell out of it, it was just awful. This was far worse than awful.
He is more or less graduating to Detective Comics. I think it's a graduation to it, or maybe it's a lateral move. So I'm utterly horrified for what's going to happen to Batman and Bat Family characters. I don't want to know what he's going to put them through. And it sounds like it's going to be unbearable. And I mean, just buckle up. It's going to be a very, very interesting, weird next year or so.
Well, the first thing he's going to do is go and retcon the character because that's what he does with every single character that he writes. Now let's get into good stuff because there were some good things out there. Not a great week, was kind of more down than anything. But on the indie scene, we did get Redcoat #4. Jeff Johns writing, Brian Hitch on art. There is a part of this comic book that did make me mad. I must fully admit that when we get the 6 consecutive pages of all black because they're stuck in a tunnel with just speech bubbles, I found that a little bit gnawing on me. Otherwise, the rest of the story is good. Simon Pure escaping the clutches of the founding fathers, and he and Albert Einstein are trying to make it out there. And then we get the big reveal who the big kahuna of the founding fathers are. And it kind of makes sense. And it's just a fun book.
Yeah, it's a fun book. I like the previous issue a little bit more than this one because I like the world that they're creating, like the different American folklore that they're possibly getting into in that subsequent issues. But yeah, I do love this cult that they're introducing, why they're doing what they're doing. I love the art by Brian Hitch. It's absolutely beautiful. And the big reveal on the very last page, it's like, okay, this is interesting. This is a bold move. It's a very interesting choice, but I trust Jeff Johns. He's a very talented writer, and I want to see where he takes us next. But yeah, this is a very fun read. Do check out Redcoat, guys.
Definitely enjoying basically all of Ghost Machine. We've got the Hyde Street stuff just around the corner coming up in a couple of months. We've also got G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, #308, Larry Hama writing, Paul Peltier on art. This is the culmination of a lot of the things that Larry Hama's been setting up in the first 7 or so issues since Skybound relaunched A Real American Hero. And we finally get the real plan for Serpentor Khan and what he's going to do to Springfield, which I thought was absolutely amazing. There's a hilarious moment where we have, I don't know, like a big rig full of like Cobra agents being passed by a truck full of G.I. Joe ninjas, which I thought was a great little moment. And we also have that recon team that was stuck on Cobra Island or whatever. We're found out they actually make their escape in this one. So lots of action stuff here and a lot of big payoffs. Really enjoyable.
Yeah, a lot of big payoffs. And if you're a fan of G.I. Joe from the 80s and early 90s, the animated series, you know, the different interpretations of the characters, there's a great moment with Cobra Commander at the end of this book with how he's dressed. He has got certain armor on him. I'm like, oh, hey, I remember that. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, this is a very fun book. It's very kinetic. It's very fast-paced. There's a lot going on in this. There's like, I think, 3 different stories going on in here? There's like 3 different groups of stories happening in this.
Because you've still got Destro, Cobra Commander, Serpentor Khan, and G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it goes 4 different places in this. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a lot to keep up with, but there's a lot of characters. But it's still it's very fun because they're all integral to the story. And what they're leading to, yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. And art by Paul by Paul Peltier is good. Paul does a great job. Yeah, do check this out. G.I. Joe is in a great place. It's just a lot of fun.
And right now, in my opinion, A Real American Hero is the best G.I. Joe comic book that you could buy out there. Scarlet's not been all that good. Destro isn't too bad, and we got issue #2 this week. Dan Waters writing, Andre Bresson on art. A lot of people seem to like this issue a lot more than I did. I think it's perfectly serviceable. You do get the Cobra twins or the Crimson twins facing off against Destro, both of them doing kind of their own thing, but coming to the same conclusion that they're winning this weird war on the black market of arms and all this kind of stuff. And they're trying to really play a game of screw your neighbor going on a very large scale here with, I don't know, a gentleman's agreement maybe coming around to the end. And I think it definitely works. It's way better than Scarlet, but it doesn't quite live up to the Duke standard for me, at least.
No, it doesn't. You're right there. But however, I will say this second issue is better than issue 1. I was not as big on issue 1. And this one, I felt I enjoyed this more. This one felt like it was a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. Because I do love the Cobra twins, and I do love their interaction with Destro, just how more or less they're trying to make a deal, but kind of they're also backstabbing each other at the same point. And I do love toward the end of the issue how we get more into the the family foundations of Destro, where he comes from and kind of like where he goes to, to get his strength, to go to where he goes to get advice, to figure out what he needs to do. And the cliffhanger at the end of this, what could happen? It's like, oh, this is very interesting. I'm very curious to see what happens next. I think Destro it's like you said, it's not as good as Duke. It's good. It's definitely not as bad as Scarlet. Scarlet, it's pretty much the dregs. But yeah, it's still a good read. It's a slower burn than it is with Duke and G.I. Joe. Do give it a shot if you're interested in a slower burn, but still good.
That does it for our indie books this week. Not as many as normal, but it was kind of a quiet week. Let's move over to Marvel Comics. We're going to recommend Incredible Hulk 14, Philip Kennedy Johnson writing, Nick Klein on art. This has kind of been an up and down series, and this is definitely a high water mark as of late. And we see the struggles of Hulk trying to contain Bruce Banner, within like the Hulk sphere, whatever you want to kind of call it. There is a little glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, somebody's going to help him out there and take control of the body again finally. But what really stands out here, besides the art, which is absolutely fantastic, is actually reincorporating the eldest stuff in here. In this case, we have like elements of Betty coming in here as Harpy, trying to make peace with Bruce and all the things that he's done, because that's why Hulk really hates him, and showing him a way to finally take over for good, and also selling that it's actually going to save Charlie in the end, which he's definitely going to have to consider.
The art in this by Nick Klein is fantastic. I have missed him so much because he's been on and off on the book, which has been very disappointing. He hits a home run in this issue with the art. There's a double pager. It's the pre-credit page where I think it's a double pager. You see these two monsters just going at it. It is absolutely beautiful. But just the sacrifice that Banner would have to make, for to get Charlie back. It's like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see if Bruce does make this decision. But before that, just everything with how everything is illustrated with the monsters, just where we go to in this hellish landscape, who Bruce encounters, especially Rick Jones. It's great stuff. This is what Hulk should have been the entire time. And it's a shame we haven't gotten as much of Nick Klein on the Hulk, because he was very focal to this series. Do check this issue out of the Incredible Hulk. Hulk is back on the right path. There's no Blood Hunt tie-ins, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's very safe to read. I love it.
Really enjoyed that one. Hopefully, we're really getting to that eldest story, and Incredible Hulk is going places again. Let's move over to DC Comics. We've got Superman number 16, Josh Williamson writing, Jamal Campbell on art. This is a tie-in to Absolute Power, an event that I am not consuming, but I'm going to keep reading the books that I've been reading anyway. And as far as all the Absolute Power stuff that I've read so far, which includes Task Force 7, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and Superman, this is easily the best story so far. Jamal Campbell on art really kills it on this one. Some fun stuff here. I don't know that it's a terrific Superman comic book, because it's not really about Superman. It's about the leftovers kind of going through the city of Metropolis and what they're experiencing, I guess, with these new Amazos taking over and stealing people's powers, and really creating the beginning stages of some type of resistance or rebellion. But I think for the story itself, it's illustrated very well. It's pretty fun stuff in there. I don't know that this exactly sells me on Absolute Power and makes me want to pick up the series, which I wouldn't do anyway. But it certainly doesn't make me not want to read it, which I think is a job well done.
Like you said, is 100% correct. It's not a Superman book. I would argue it's a Zatanna comic. This is more about Zatanna, and which I have no problem with. I like Zatanna as a character. She's a terrific character. But do I feel like she belongs here in this book? No, absolutely not. She doesn't belong in the Superman book. Seeing her trying to fight to survive, yeah, it was great. Seeing her trying to evade the Amazos, because somehow she's unaffected by the Amazos. I guess they can't. Her magic is.
They can't steal magic, but they can make magic users forget about magic.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. For plot reasons, sure. And so she manages to escape. They get to the Fortress of Solitude. There's some okay moments, but some of the better moments, honestly, I really wish we got more of. I really wish we got to see more of Mr. Terrific and Dr. Midnight operating on Superman, trying to get the Kryptonite bullet out. I thought that could have been the whole issue, honestly, which is, I love those two characters. But honestly, what didn't sell me was the very last page with Lois. Honestly, with that last
worst part
page,
of the comic.
I'm like, God, this is where we're going. I do not want to go down this path. I can't go down this path with you. From everything else, from Absolute Power, this is the standout right now.
No doubt. So while I'm not reading Absolute Power, I am being consumed with it because it's kind of taken over DC Comics. Thankfully, Green Lantern War Journal number 11 had no absolute power to it. Philip Kennedy Johnson once again writing on this one, Montos on art. And there's just an amazing page in here because we finally have the Guy Gardner Shepherd story colliding with the John Stewart story. And they've all kind of arrived there by the end. And John Stewart has finally gone into the dark star of the Fen and seeing what they're trying to construct and has realized he needs to construct something else. And you get this amazing page where he's constructing like this entirely new world. Once again, I still consider the Ellie and John Stewart mom story to be the standout part to it. It's the part that really feels like it's got the heart and soul of the book. And they do a really interesting thing with that one. I don't know that I love the artistic choice when the change is made, but I do like the concept behind it.
Yeah, I enjoy the concept. Like you said, the artistic choice with it. It's like, sure, let's see what happens with this. See what you can do with this. It's a decision. But like you said, that had to have been a double pager with because we get to see what John Stewart is really known for being as a Green Lantern is being a builder, a constructor, because he was an architect. So you see him being the architect that John Stewart is, building this world. And that's perfect. We're seeing him being who he is. And I love it. And he's using those skills. And it's amazing. It's beautifully illustrated. I can't wait to see what happens in the next issue. Because at the end of this issue, we get Guy Gardner back. We got my boy back. And I guarantee you they're going to be thrown down hard in the next issue. It's going to be a lot of fun. Because next issue is the conclusion. So I guarantee you it's going to be bold. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be bombastic. And this issue is a great setup toward it. Do check out Green Lantern War Journal, guys. It is a standout right now from DC. One of the few.
Really been enjoying that series. Obviously, it's about to conclude with issue number 12. Philip Kennedy Johnson will be moving over to Batman and Robin, replacing Josh Williamson. And then Montos will be moving over to Green Arrow, working with Chris Connon, a new arrival at DC Comics that I'm very excited for, taking over as the artist there. So I think they've got some cool stuff ahead for them. Final recommendation, Dark Knights of Steel, Allwinter number 1, Jay Kristoff writing, Tirso on art. There's also a backup story from Tom Taylor, which is easily the best thing he did all week, but only because it was illustrated by Riccardo Federici, who does an amazing job there. I don't know if I had high expectations for this comic book coming in, but I am an enormous fan of Vikings and Viking stories and fiction, nonfiction, all that kind of stuff. And for some reason, I expected this version of Slade to be a Viking, but have like characteristics that Slade has as well, besides just his name and an eye patch. It just kind of ended up coming off as a generic Viking story to me. And for some reason, I thought there was going to be more DC flavor other than just heroes having names that you recognize, but in a Viking setting.
I liked what they gave us here, and I wouldn't have had a problem as well if, like you said, if they had gone down that path. And maybe DC was afraid that if they went down that path, readers wouldn't recognize it. They wouldn't know what that is. They could be afraid it was too different. So I feel like they played it safe by going down this path, so readers would be able to recognize certain things. That's why I think they went down. That's the path they went down for that reason. Either way, it would have been great, but this path that went down, I enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed this issue. It was very action-packed. It was very, very beautifully illustrated. What the landscapes we have, we have Slade go down with Killer Frost. The journey he has to go on for Vandal Savage. It's beautiful, and what happens on the last page? It's a very interesting twist. I'm very curious. I think I know who this character is. I'm not 100% certain, but we'll see what happens in the next issue. This was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This is easily the best issue of anything from the Dark Knights of Steel that they've done. And I highly, highly recommend this issue. This was my favorite issue of the week. I have so much fun reading this. If you do like Vikings, if you like Slade Wilson, if you like Vandal Savage, do check this out.
I don't know, man. I'm still going to go with probably G.I. Joe, Real American Hero being my pick of the week. I just thought that comic book was amazing. I don't know why. It just wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I thought it was weird that it was in black and white, and then the last page obviously has something different show up. So I'll definitely keep reading, and I'm not turned off to the concept or the story or whatever, but hopefully they do something a little bit more unique that feels more like Deathstroke in the book, other than just calling him, Slade Wilson and saying he's a mercenary. So those are our picks of the week, the best comic books of the week, and also just laying a dump on DC Comics this week from Tom Taylor. Just putting his name out there and reminding you why you don't want to support him, and you should be very weary about him going on to Detective Comics. Now, Drew, you've had Unholy Nightmare in the pipeline for a while. You've done the crowdfunding, you've done backer kit, you've got all that kind of stuff, and it sounds like we are in the end stages of production.
Yeah, art, lettering, everything is done for Unholy Nightmare. We are now in the editing phase. We're in the proofreading phase right now. But after that, we're going to be going to print, hopefully next month. Then fulfillment. So hopefully it's July. So hopefully by the end of August, we'll have these books out to all the backers. Thank you for everyone who's supported us, who's backed us. And if you haven't, you still got a chance now to back us on Backer Kit. It is still available right now until we lock it down, which will be probably pretty soon.
I do want to say thank you very much to Drew for joining us, as always, talking about the very best comic books of the week. Always appreciate that. If you would like a more in-depth look and discussion about the new comics of the week, the good, the bad, and everything in between, I do want to suggest that you go over and check out Thinking Critical Patreon. If you want to support what we're doing here and our mission here on YouTube, that is the best place to do it. And you get awesome podcasts in return. The one I'm talking about in this case is the Hot or Not Comic Rundown with Jim from Weird Science. Those guys review everything. And we have an awesome 2.5-hour discussion every single week. And we just have really a lot of fun. That's the best way to describe that one. Link in the video description if you want to check out the Patreon.